In this video, I'm going to take you through my 4-step process for building out programmatic websites using Claude Code and Cursor, building a site start to finish so that you can follow along. I built out a live TSA wait time checker that uses real-time APIs to pull data from all airports in the USA and show our users what the wait time is at each security checkpoint across the United States. We're actually going to build it and get traffic from Google within 24 hours. So let's jump in and get started. In this video, I'm going to take you through 4 different steps that we'll follow to build this out from end to end. Number 1 is research. I'm going to help you find your niche and also, help you find APIs, plan out page structures for the site before we build it. We'll also take a look at some keyword research tools like SEMrush so that we can see how much traffic potential there is in the specific niche that we're planning to go after. I'm also going to show you multiple different examples, including one that I built, so that you can see some sites that are getting hundreds of thousands of page views per month and also monetizing in different ways, some through ad revenue, some through specific products or subscriptions on their website. So I'll show you those. We will then take our idea. So we're building a TSA wait time checker that shows, how long is the queue at any airport in the United States. We'll then build out a one-shot build. So we're going to use a mega prompt that basically outlines the project start to finish and allows Claude Code to go through and work through all of the steps and build us essentially a finished product. Now that product, it's not going to be perfect, but it will give you a working website that is pretty good. I wouldn't recommend launching that. There's going to be some iterations and polishing that needs done. So that is step 3. We're going to focus on some iterations, improving any bugs, and also add in SEO optimization. So optimizing the pages so that we can get seen on Google as quickly as possible. I'm also going to add in sort of a cool little 3D map to show you some of the more advanced features that you can do with Claude Code. So basically any user will be able to come in on the homepage. There'll be a map of the United States that you can click on any airport and see what time the wait line is at that security checkpoint. We're then going to actually deploy this. So we're going to put it online. So whenever you build out your project, if you follow along, you can actually share this with your friends. It's not just running locally on your own machine. So I'm going to show you that. It's a very quick way to do it. I use Railway, and we'll also show you how to add in Google Analytics and Google Search Console during the tutorial as well. So let's jump into the research phase. I'm going to show you a few different projects. The first one here is similarscreen.com. So this is actually a website I built out about 2 weeks ago. And essentially what it does is shows you, similar movies to movies that you already like. So this is the homepage here. We're essentially trying to get traffic from keywords like, if you enjoyed Project Hail Mary, you might search on Google similar movies to Project Hail Mary. You find my website here, you click on it, and then we showcase you sort of 10 recommendations or 15 recommendations of movies that are similar to that product. And this is great for programmatic SEO. We have over 2,000 pages on the website. All of them are unique because everyone has different movies. So it's a really easy way to generate a ton of pages and actually provide valuable information. So that's Similar Screen. I have also built out a project. I'm not going to share the URL of it here, but I built this out about 2 weeks ago. And as you can see, we've already got 781 real users to the website. We're getting an average engagement time of 2 minutes and 17 seconds. So it shows that this site is actually good enough to keep people engaged and read the content that we have on there. On this, 275 visitors came from organic search. 217 from organic social. This spike that you see here is a little bit of Reddit marketing that I did to kind of kickstart the site, get users to it, and kind of help index those pages on Google. So I can talk about that in a future video if it's something that you guys want to learn about. I'm not going to cover it in this video. This right here is petrolprices.com. So these guys, they get a ton of traffic. You can see here they're getting about 600,000 visitors per month. And what's really unique about this one is they're not just using a paid API or even a free API, which there's no real moat because anyone can come in and use those as well and compete with you. But they're actually using user-generated data. So if someone goes to one of these specific petrol stations, they can submit the price. I believe that's how they're actually doing this. And you can see here, like, when was the most recent update. So they're getting real-time data from users of the website, and it's kind of like a community-driven project. So that gives them a real moat on, who can actually compete with them because it's hard to get that data. So if you have an idea or a way to get data that other people don't, That gives you a bit of protection and allows you to stand out. Another site here is Games Finder. So again, this is very similar to Similar Screen, but they're doing it for games, and they're getting sort of 350,000 visitors per month. This one right here is nomads.com. Some of you guys may know it from Peter Levels. So basically this website shows you the cost of living in different places around the world, specifically tailored towards digital nomads. So he's niched it down nicely. And I believe he actually has like a paid plan on this. He's not monetizing through ads, but you can pay to join the nomad community. And obviously that has a benefit to customers because they can then connect with other nomads. So there's different ways that you can monetize these projects. This one here is called the Gindex, and super interesting. This one's really new, so it's only been around for like 2 weeks or so. And the developer of this, what he did was set up an AI voice agent to call pubs and bars around Northern Ireland and Ireland, asking for the price of a pint of Guinness. And when he got that data back, he put it into his database, and then he's, now has a programmatic website that basically showcases the price of a pint of Guinness in any town or any bar in Ireland, which is, super interesting. And he's also now having users go ahead and submit the price of a pint for a pub. So he's getting that feedback loop where now users actually want to submit, and he has that data mode. But was really interesting that he actually used AI voice agents to initially start this. So that's some interesting examples that are monetizing differently. But let's jump into the TSA app. So the first thing that I actually want to show you is SEMrush. So this is the tool. It's basically an SEO tool that allows you to track backlinks on your website, track competitor backlinks, site traffic, etc., and see what search terms they're ranking for. So the one that I'm going to show you specifically in this video, and I don't want to go too deep on SEO because I want to show you how to build the website in this video, but I would recommend getting SEMrush so that you can look at search volume, and there's other tools as well you can use, but you can look at the search volume of, the traffic that you're going after. So for this, we're essentially targeting people who are searching, security wait times at X airport, or they're searching for TSA wait times at X airport. So you can see here, some of the most popular airports are getting 6,000, 5,000, 3,000 total volume per month. So they're getting a lot of searches. And we can see here that the actual keyword difficulty is 29, 28, 17. Some of them are really, easy to rank for. It's 9. So that means there's not really that many competitors with a high domain authority ranking for those keywords. So if you come in here and the keyword difficulty is between 50 and 100 for most of the keywords, it's probably too competitive and it's going to be very hard to rank. But if you're seeing a lot of green in here, it's going to be easier to rank for these keyword terms. So I'd recommend doing this for sort of the rough search, like search keywords that you expect people to search for your website that you're building. So now that we've validated our idea, we now want to find the data source for our website. So we want something where we can pull data from, and usually you're going to get that from an API. And an API is basically a connection that allows you to pull data from someone else's database. So there's a lot of free APIs out there. There's a lot of paid APIs out there, depending on the type of project that you're going for. For this in particular, we're going to use a free trial API. I think it's actually $25 a month if you want to use it, and actually launch this website. But it's a very small fee to pay for, something that can generate a lot of money down the line. So with these APIs, there's basically, they have a database, some company, and the API allows you to pull the data from that database and showcase it on your own site in your own unique way that provides more value. So to actually go ahead and find APIs for your niche, what I'd recommend doing is open up your Claude Code. So what I'm going to be doing in this video and how I like to use Claude Code, there's a ton of different ways that you can use it. I use Cursor as my IDE, and you can use anything. You can use VS Code, you can use anti-gravity. I like Cursor. It's just what I started using and I haven't changed. And I use Claude Code in the terminal. You can use it as sort of an extension, but I like to use it in the terminal. So you want to open up your Claude Code, and from here we can start working with Claude Code to find us the data that we need. So the first thing I'm going to say to Claude Code is just, can you find me some APIs that have live TSA wait time data? Claude Code is then going to go out and do some research for you and pull back different API sources that we can use. You may want to also combine multiple APIs. So if there's different data points that you want, for example, if you're doing a website on house price data, but then you decide maybe I want to actually add in, because you're doing house prices, you want to do like cost of living. There might be 2 different APIs that you want to pull from, and you can expand your website through multiple different sources of data. So you can see here, Claude Code is now come back with a few different APIs. So you'll want to look through this and see which one makes sense, the pricing, what sort of data they provide. But for this example, I'm going to be using the TSAWaitTimes.com API. So I've already set up an account on their website, and here is my API key. So no matter what service you're using, what API you're using, you'll typically need an API key. So you can get the API key by either creating an account. Some APIs are completely free and are accessible without an account or an API key. So you can use that as well in certain projects. Most of them, if you're doing something original or unique, you're going to have to find an API that provides you with an API key, and you might need to pay for it. So now we know which API we're actually using, we can start thinking about building out the project. So what I've done is in Cursor, I've opened a brand new folder. So you can just create a new folder on your desktop for your project, open that folder in here. I've created a Claude.md file. So basically what a Claude.md file is a file that provides instructions to your model. So every time that you interact with Claude, it will reference this Claude.md file. And if there was mistakes made by Claude in the past, you can update it in here to add instructions or rules that Claude will then follow moving forward. So we want to give initially here, as we start to build this out, we want to give Claude.md some instructions. So what I'm going to do is actually prompt the model to create a Claude.md file rather than creating it myself. I usually find that it's much better to speak to Claude and give it in your words, and then let it create the prompt that is much easier to read for these LLMs. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a prompt here to create a Claude.md file. Building out a TSA wait time tracker for airports in the United States. Create a Claude.md file stating that you're an expert full stack developer. So you can see here, it's now created the Claude.md file. So we've got our role, you're an expert full stack developer building a TSA wait time tracker for United States airports. You have deep experience with modern web frameworks, REST API integration, real-time data handling, and building responsive production-ready applications. It then gives a project overview, some tech decisions on stack, framework, and architecture. We will go through that in a minute as we start to build out the project. We've then got our API sources, so I'm actually just going to delete these two because we know the one that we're actually using. So we're using the TSA wait times API. And then we've got some guidelines. So write clean, maintainable, well-structured code, prioritize performance and responsiveness, handle API failures gracefully. Now, because this is an SEO project, I actually want to add in some detail there about that. So what I've given here is another prompt saying this project is solely reliant on SEO traffic. Update the Claude.md file to always follow best SEO practices for programmatic SEO. And then I've said, we want detailed pages, we want charts on there, and we don't want any thin pages that won't get indexed because Google sees that as a negative and likely won't index thin pages that don't provide users value. So when you're building programmatic websites, you want to think about your site architecture. So basically, how do these pages flow and how are pages generated? So with our site, we're going to be doing it on basically a state level. And then for every state, we're going to have different airports. And if you think about this on a bigger scale, for example, if you did every airport in the world, you would probably have country level, state level, and then your airports below that. And that will generate pages for all of those things. So you've got level 2 here. We've got our home page, and then you'll click into a state. And then, for example, California, you'll get all of the airports in that state. So there's different levels to it. And these are all, different pages that can get traffic. So some people might search for what are all the airports in California? Our page might get traffic from that, even though, that's not the exact point of the website. And then further down, you've got the specific pages that we expect to get traffic from as long tail keywords. So what are the wait times in LAX right now? So that's level 3. And this can get really, really deep. Obviously, this is a fairly simple example of how this works. But depending on the type of website you're building, you might have 10,000 different pages with lots of different interlinking. So interlinking strategy is also very important on a programmatic site. Every link is a signal to Google, and it allows users to navigate through your pages and helps to get your website indexed on Google faster. So for example, if you're looking at the state page of Georgia, you'll then click to the airport page, and you might want to go back to the state page to look at another airport to see if the wait times are shorter there. And then from there, everything links right back up to the top homepage. So now that we have a rough site architecture, let's start building it out in Claude. So what I'm going to do is take my docs file here from TSA wait times. So this is basically the API documentation. So I've basically built out this prompt. I'm saying, here's the API documentation. So giving it the detail it needs to pull the data efficiently. And I've also given it my API key here. I'm going to change that after this video. You should probably not give your API key directly to the models as a security note. You should add that to your environment variables, and we'll do that later and cover that. But what I've said is access the API and see what data we can get for the website and start mapping out a plan to build the site. I want to use Next.js, and I'll be deploying on Railway, so I'm giving it the tech stack and where we're going to deploy so that it optimizes the site for that. And then I've also given it just some more SEO instruction to ensure that it builds it out with good interlinking, good site architecture. Pages should be in-depth and have detailed content. And what I like to do, and this is kind of just everything I do with AI, I'm not giving this an extremely detailed plan or prompt. I'm giving it, in my words, what I wanted to say, and then I let it build out the actual prompt. So we want to build a plan, and that's key to doing this. So you can use /plan. You've probably used planning in Claude before. What I've said here is the plan should cover everything we need to build this out end to end. So what it will do is now go ahead and actually create that plan. We can then review that plan before this starts building out the site. So I'm going to let this run, and then we'll go from there. So Claude has now went ahead, it's accessed the API. We're getting real response data back, and Claude will now be able to understand sort of the data architecture, what different data points can we actually pull from this API, and what is the best way to structure that for a programmatic website so that we can display this information efficiently to different users. So we've got rich data. Now let me fetch a couple more airports, and it's entered plan mode. So it's now going to give us and build out that full comprehensive plan that it will then follow to go ahead and build out this website from scratch. So here we've got a summary of our plan. So this is going to give us a summary. We can also view the full plan by doing /plan. But I'm just going to take a quick look. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to one-shot this and go from here. But whenever you're doing this for real, you want to analyze the plan. There's likely some spots that you'll see, or maybe there's something missing, and you want to prompt it to then go ahead and update that, add in any additions that you need here. So what we're going to build out here is sort of the main pages. These are the ones that are more likely to get traffic. So it's going to be the specific airport, JFK wait times, and then some airports have multiple terminals. So that gives us more pages here so we can see the different terminals. We've got pre-check, so it's going to tell us whether there is pre-check at different airports. And then we've got what's actually on each page. So this is something you will want to focus on. Likely I could look through this and optimize it to add more information that is useful to the user. We might want to add the weather. If we really wanted to get detailed, we could actually add, we could think about it from the perspective of a user searching this to see what the TSA wait times are, to see what time they need to leave their house. And we could actually plug that in to have two APIs. So you could use a real-time traffic data API with this wait time API, and then tell the user based on where they live, how long they should leave or what time they should leave for a specific flight. And you can combine these APIs to create really useful information for a user. We're not going to go that deep in this video, but it's got some SEO stuff here as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, let's run this. So I like to use bypass permissions, which basically lets this run from start to finish, and it's going to start building. Now, as you can see, the plan actually took about 6 minutes to build out because it's building a detailed plan. I also use Opus 4.6. That's the model that I use right now. It's the latest model. It's the best. I'd recommend using it. I would also recommend getting, sort of a Claude Pro or Claude Max plan. It's $20 or $100, but it is well worth it. And the amount of stuff I do with it is crazy. So I would definitely recommend getting them. But I'm going to let this build out. It's going to essentially run through. It'll give you like a checkbox here of each of the steps that it's going to do. And then hopefully whenever this runs, I'll get back to you guys and we should have a finished website. Now it's going to be optimizations that need to be made, but we should have something that's working and showing us that real-time data. So it's now finished up. It took 42 minutes sort of from start to finish. I haven't looked at it yet, but what I'm going to do is just run this locally for me. So the site is now live and should be running over on localhost 3003. So I've copied that. Let's go over to our browser and paste it and see what we look like here. So on first glance, to be honest, the UI, the design does not look great at all. Obviously, we can't see any of these. And this is sort of the design that you see on a lot of current programmatic sites. So I definitely want to give this an overhaul in sort of our step 3 of optimization, which we're going to start now. But let's see if it actually works. So if we search for Los Angeles here, we can see that it's auto-populating. If we click on this, we can see the live wait time is 21 minutes. TSA pre-check is available, and it's pulling the hourly wait times at different times of the day here, which is super useful. We can see sort of the different terminals that we have, which ones are open, which ones are closed, best times to go through security. We've got nearby airports, report your wait times. There's an option there to actually get some user data on the platform and improve it. And then we've got our footer down here. So to be honest, not bad from a functionality perspective. We've got a lot of information on these pages, but it looks pretty bad. So that's the first optimization that I'm going to make. There's two things that I want to do. I don't want to make this video too long. But there's two things I want to do. One, let's update the design here and make it a little bit better. So I'm just going to give it some basic prompts to try and improve this, because you can't even read some of this text here, which is pretty bad. And then what I want to do is also add in like a map on the homepage here that you can click to go to whatever specific airport that you want. So first, let's improve the design. So I've just given a very basic prompt here. If I was actually doing this, what I would do is go and find other websites that I really like. I would give it the link to them. I would take screenshots and provide it with the screenshots. But just for the sake of this video, I'm going to use this simple prompt. So the design on the side is terrible. Some of the text blends in with the background and isn't readable. Change this to a blue modern design that looks beautiful. So I'm just going to give it that prompt, let it work in the background here, and we'll get sort of a live update. And while we're waiting on that, I'm going to start working on the prompt to add in the 3D rendered map that shows the airports. So for the 3D map, I'm just going to give it another prompt here, fairly simple. Add a 3D map to the homepage that shows all of the airports in the US, pinpoint the airports, and when selected, show a preview of the wait times, so that on the homepage, users can view the wait times of whatever airport they want. So I'm just going to add that in there, and that will then run once the previous task finishes up. But hopefully we should, in a few seconds here, have the homepage and have this updated design. So it's still working through this, but let's take a look. You can usually see these changes in real time when you're working through these things. So let's see what we've got now. So this still looks a little bit basic, but it's 100 times better than what we had just a minute ago. So it looks modern, it looks pretty nice. We can see all the airports tracked. We're not having the text blended in with the background. So everything's now legible, and I think this is a reasonable site to actually launch. So let's actually go ahead and take a look at one of these airport pages now. So if we look at Atlanta, we can see the live wait time. I think this looks so much better than we previously did. The charts look great. There's still a lot of optimizations to be made, but this looks pretty damn nice. So we've got Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International TSA wait times, SEO optimized title there. We've got charts. We've got the live wait time up here at the top, 34 minutes and 24 seconds. User reported 90 minutes ago, so that's coming from the API that collect the data live. And then we've got TSA pre-check, which is available at this airport. And we've got when it was just updated, which is nice. So we've been able to improve that design pretty quickly. There's a few different things and different pages in here. So we've got the pre-check airport, so it'll show you all of the airports that are pre-checked. We can also look at this compare page here, so we'll be able to compare two different airports. So I think we've got New York and JFK here. So you can see the wait time is 5 minutes at New York, 23 minutes at JFK, and you can compare them throughout the day in this nice little chart. So you've got that comparison. I don't think this is likely a page that's going to get a ton of traffic, but it does just give a little bit more detail on your website. So the design's been updated. Again, you could spend a lot more time on this and actually get it to a place that you want. But sort of for the final optimization here, let's wait and see if we can get this nice little map to appear. So let's see where Cursor's working on. So it's starting to work on the 3D map request. It's finished off all of those sort of theme changes that we did. So let's take a look once this is ready. Claude is now finished up building out the map component on the homepage. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So we can see here, we now have it down below. So yeah, I'm not sure about the dark mode on it. I think we could improve sort of the graphics here, but let's zoom in. Let's take one of these airports and see what it looks like. So if you click on this, we can see live wait time data available on the detail page, which is probably good for SEO, right? You want to find your airport and then click on it, and then that gets more page views, more ad revenue if you're monetizing through ads. You could obviously show that data live on this map as well if you wanted, but let's click view details. And now it takes us through to that actual page, and we can see the information on the wait times at that airport. So pretty nice feature, works pretty well, and it gives, a bit more depth to our website and some more useful information on the homepage that we can use. And these map components, you can actually build them out, in a ton of different ways. I'll actually show you one that I have on one of my websites. You can scroll through the map. It looks, super, super nice. You can scroll in, you can click on different countries here and look at different stats on the countries. But you can build out some crazy components. It does take a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, but you can make it look amazing over time. So let's go back here to Claude. So now I think we're ready to launch this. Now, if I wasn't doing this just for a video, I would improve it. I would make adjustments, but for the sake of this video, just to show you how to get things live, anything that you want to do, you can ask Claude to improve it, change it, adjust it, give it ideas, inspiration from other places. But for now, we're going to launch this and show you guys how to get it live. So we've done a lot of the SEO work in the background, so I'm going to leave that for now, but I would maybe ask Claude to give it an SEO audit and ensure that all the pages are ready to be indexed on Google. But what we want to do to actually launch this is we want to push it to GitHub first, and then we can deploy it on Railway. So obviously right now when we look at our site, it's running locally. So that means that it's just running on your computer on a server. It's not live. No one can visit this. It's not a website that you can share with people. So we need to get this online and working so that we can share it. So what we want to do is first create a new GitHub repository. So if you don't have a GitHub account, go ahead and create one and then go to github.com/new. In here, I'm just going to call this TSA wait time. And I'm not going to give it a description. I'm not going to make it public. I'm going to make it private. And then I'm going to create a repository. Once you've got a repository, this will basically allow us to push this online and our files will be stored on GitHub. So we're going to use HTTPS and I'm going to copy this link right here. And then we're going to go down to Claude inside Cursor and I'm going to say push this to this GitHub repo. And you just paste your link in there to your repo. And then it's going to run you through some steps to link your GitHub account and actually be able to log in here. One of the things that you'll notice here when you're setting this up, it's not going to submit the .env file. So the .env file here, let me pull this down so you can see it. This is where all of your like secret API keys are going to be stored, database URLs, etc. So this is all information that you do not want to be leaked to the public. So you store it in a .env file locally. But when we push this to Railway, we're actually going to store those API keys, database URLs in the Railway's variables section. And that keeps them securely there, so they're not visible on the front end. So you can see here, it's not going to push that env to GitHub. We don't want anyone to be able to see that. And now it says push successfully to GitHub on the main branch. Now I'm already logged in, so it will prompt you to log into your GitHub account. But if we go back to GitHub now and go to our code, we should now see those files in there from our project. So you can see all of our files are now in GitHub. So once things are live on GitHub, what you want to do next is go to railway.com and you want to sign up for an account. It's pretty much free at the start. So you get like $5 in free credits. And it's really, really cheap to host your site. You can put apps on this, full production apps, etc. I'm just going to click new here and I'm going to deploy this from a GitHub repo. And then I'm going to go ahead and click configure GitHub app because we want to be able to access that new repo that we set up. On this page, you want to scroll down and you want to come to your permissions in Railway app and you want to select repositories. And then I'm going to select the TSA wait time repository that we created for this project. And I'm going to save that. And basically that allows the connection between Railway and GitHub to access that repo. So we're just going to refresh this so that the TSA wait time shows up here. And then it's now going to deploy on that repository. So you can see here, it'll be live soon. It will take maybe like 3 to 5 minutes to actually get that set up and get it ready to go. You can see here it's initializing. So if we click on this, we can see that it is now deploying. While we're waiting on that building out, I'm going to add our variables. So the first thing we need to add is our TSA API key. So I'm just going to grab that in Cursor right here, going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it into the TSA API key. I'm just going to add that, and then we need to redeploy. But if we look over here, our build actually failed. And this will happen sometimes when you do your first launch. So what you can do is, let's just copy this. So if we go in here, we're going to copy all of this information and you'll be able to see the reason why it's not deploying. And we're going to copy that and we're going to give it to Cursor so that it can fix these issues. So I'm going to say it didn't deploy on Railway. Fix this. And then I'm just going to give it all of that information that we copied there. And it'll work through that to fix the issue that it's having so that we can get it live. So you can see here, it's now done that update. It's going to push to GitHub again. And once it pushes to GitHub, it should just be linked with Railway to automatically redeploy these changes. So if we close out of this one, we should see here 13 seconds ago, there was a new build that was pushed. So this is going to go ahead and continue building out and hopefully this time builds successfully. And in the variables, it looks like we have everything we need at this point. So I'm just going to leave that. Let this deploy, and once it deploys, we'll see if it's live. So when it deploys, you'll want to go to settings, networking, and in networking, you'll need to generate a domain. And this will give you a like .railway.com domain that you can use. but I'll show you in a second how to actually set up a real domain with it as well. But for now, let's just generate a domain, and let's put it on port 8080 and click generate domain here. And it should give us, a name for our app. So from this URL, you can actually just share this URL with anyone that you want to share the app with. It will be live online at that URL, but we'll likely also want to add in a custom domain. But let's see if it deploys first, and we'll work on the domain in a second. So while we wait on that deploying, let's actually go ahead and do the domain. So if we go to settings, we want to add our own custom domain here. I'm going to add it. So I've bought a domain name, live TSA wait times on Namecheap. I use Namecheap. It's maybe not the best, but there's a ton of options out there. This is simple to use. It works pretty well. I'm going to come into Realware, just add the domain here, and then we're going to put that on port 8080, and then we're going to add the domain. There's going to be some information that you have to provide to Namecheap to basically link your domain name to Realware. So we need to add a CNAME record and a text record. So what I'm going to do is copy the CNAME record here, come into my domain, go to Advanced DNS. In Advanced DNS, you'll see your records here. So I'm just going to change this one. It should be at, and then our Realware URL there. And then we need to add a TXT record, and you can remove these ones that are already automatically in here in Namecheap. So we need to add the text one. So let's add the name. The name goes in the host section, and then the value is this string here. So let's copy that and add it into our DNS here. And we have those live now. So it can usually takes about 15 to 30 minutes to actually populate and show up here. So we can see now that our CNAME record has been identified. The TXT record has not yet been identified, but let's double check it and make sure everything's done right there. It may just take a little bit more time. So we'll leave that for now. Let's go back and see if we have deployed yet. So deployment successful. So we should now be able to see our app on the Realware domain. But before we do that, I'm just going to deploy up here again, and that's basically going to deploy the environment variables. So the API key that we added will now be able to be used in production from the variables here, because whenever you're doing that initially locally, it's in that .env file, which if you remember, we didn't share to GitHub. So it has to pull those API keys from somewhere, and it's going to pull them from the variables over here. So from here, we can go to our Realware app. I think the live TSA wait times domain is still loading in, so that might not work just yet, but let's go to the realwareapp.com, and you can see that we do have the site live here, which is super, super nice. Now, it looks like we are missing the map, so we may need to actually update that, and maybe that didn't get pushed in the initial GitHub push, so we need to double check that. But the site is live, and that's how you push your site live there. So let's take a look. If we go to settings, we go down, it looks like our actual domain is now live, which is great. So if we click on this, we should be able to see our website here, and it's live on live.tsawait.com. So this is now live on the internet. Anyone can access it and view your site. So let's just take a look and see if we can fix the map issue, because it's not on the deployed site. I want to make sure that we have everything there. So I'm just going to ask this, did it get pushed in the GitHub push? Because that might have happened after we actually pushed to GitHub. So it's going to take a look through the projects and let us know exactly why that map is not deployed there. So it looks like the issue here is we didn't add all of those variables in. So if you remember, we left out the cron secret, and then the next public site URL, we didn't change that. So what we need to do is go back into variables in Realware, and let's take a look at our public site URL, and that's still localhost. So what we need to do is add in here our Realware URL. So I'm going to add that and save it. And then I also want to add in the cron job variable. So if we go back to cursor over here, we can do cron secret. So let's add in the cron underscore secret here, so it has that as well. And for the value, I'm just going to put in a random string right now, and then we can deploy this and update again. It will take a couple of minutes to deploy. Let's see. So it's initializing, and hopefully once that's done, we should get access to our map on the homepage as well. So we also need to add our database URL. So right now you can see here that we're linking to our local database, which obviously isn't going to work in production. So down here, you can see exactly how to get to that. So we need to click new in the top right, select database Postgres. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to add this to our project database Postgres, and that should add it in. So you can see down here, it's spinning it up, and we can see that this is now available. So we've got 13 variables and 8 settings, and it might take some time to apply those changes. But once it is, we should be able to link that to our app right here. So if we click on Postgres, we should be able to go to variables, and then what we need is the database URL. So I'm going to click this, copy it, And then we need to go back to our actual app over here. Go to variables, database URL. You need to click on edit, and I'll just paste in the one from our post-reg. And now we can deploy that. So that should be it connected. So I'm going to let Claude know. So the database, let's say the database is now set up and connected. And hopefully I'll let this run in the background here, but it should now connect and pull our data into the app. Okay, so we're now deployed on RealWeb. Our database is seated. I did have to do a little bit of back and forth with Claude fixing some errors. So if there is anything once you launch on RealWeb that's not working, you can likely work with Claude, just tell it the issue and it will figure it out. So let's take a look. If we look at the website here, let's go full screen. You can see we've now got the map here and we've now got the live airport wait times. Our search functionality should hopefully be working as well. So we can see here. And if we scroll down, we can now click on these and see the wait time. Pretty big wait time at George Bush Houston Intercontinental. Something going on there, but that is us launched. The site is now ready to go live. You can share this URL with your friends, start sharing it, on places like Reddit, maybe to get some initial traffic. But things are working nicely. If we go here, let's just double check that our compare feature is working. So we're getting the data there as well. Perfect. So the last thing I want to show you in this video is setting it up with Google Search Console so that you can get your website indexed on Google and start getting Google traffic. So what you want to do is come up here and grab your sitemap URL. So if you type in /sitemap.xml is typically where that's going to live. So we've actually got an issue in the sitemap right here. And you can see here that it's using the production.realware URL versus our actual URL. So obviously we want that to reflect our real URL, which is live.tsa.waittimes.com. So we need to come back into Cursor here and update the sitemap to reflect our actual URL, which is, let me just copy it just to make sure we get the exact URL there. And then we'll add this into Claude and we'll give that to Claude and it will update the sitemap. We'll have to push that live and it will deploy over here again on RealWeb. So it looks like what we need to do here is actually come into RealWeb. And if we go to variables, our site URL, so that's still the old one. So let's go in here, we'll edit this, change that to live TSA wait times. We will deploy this. And once that deploys, the sitemap should then hopefully update. And then we can publish that on Google Search Console. So what you want to do with Google Search Console is come in here and create a new property. If you've never used it before, it will ask you to set up a property. You want to paste your domain in here and click continue. You need to remove the HTTPS at the start and we need to remove this at the end, and then we can click continue and it will verify this. So mine is already verified because I've added the TXT file to my domain DNS settings. So if you haven't done that, they'll give you a text record here. So just like we did earlier in the video when we were linking our URL to RealWeb, you'll have to come back to your advanced DNS and you just need to add in this TXT record here. So it's a TXT record, you put @ in the host, and then Google Search Console will give you this string right here, paste it in, and it will take 2 or 3 minutes, but once you do that, you should be able to verify, and it will verify that you're the owner of the property, and then now you have access to the Google Search Console. So now that you've got your Google Search Console linked, if you come over here to your website and go to /sitemap.xml, you'll be able to see all of your URLs in here, and this is basically how Google finds your URLs and pages on your sites. So we should have 400 or 500 pages in here from all of the pages we've created programmatically. So what we want to do is copy this. You want to come into your Google Search Console, go to sitemaps, and you can see I added it earlier, but there was only 101 pages, and I'll show you this now. So basically there was an issue where there was it wasn't adding the airport pages, so I needed to update that and get it to fix it. And then it also had an error where there was 2 slashes. So you can see here it had these double slashes. And that was basically because in my variables, to double check this on your side as well, in the next public site URL, I had a slash at the end of .com. So you need to remove that from here, and that should fix that. But if we come back to Cursor, all of that is now updated. We have our sitemap and we can go to Google Search Console, submit it, and we should now get our full sort of 550 pages or whatever the number is. So you can see here it says 101. Now it's updated to 1031. So that is the total pages that we have. So you can now sort of monitor in here. It takes probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 days to see any initial traffic here. But you can also add in Google Analytics to your site. Just ask Claude to do that for you, and you will potentially see some traffic coming in. You should at least see a minimum of impressions, so seeing that your sites and pages are getting indexed. So I'm just jumping in here. I'm actually editing this video right now, and I thought I'll jump into Google Search Console and see if we can see our traffic stats yet. And surprisingly to me, we actually are getting traffic, and quite a bit of it, especially for day one. Like a lot of times with SEO projects, it can take, for the first month, you might get 10 clicks, if even, on, a website that's kind of doing well in that initial time period. But if I switch over here to Google Search Console, it says 0 right here because that's the 25th, which was 2 days ago. So not even when we set this up. We set this up on the 26th around, I think I published this about 2:30 p.m. Right now, it's currently the day after. It's 1:40 p.m. and we've got 11 clicks yesterday. And today hasn't refreshed. It takes about 24 hours. You usually see today's data tomorrow. But we're getting a 10.2% click-through rate, where you can see here some of the queries that people are typing in to find the site. So TSA wait times at San Diego, Santa Ana Airport. You can see the pages that are getting traffic here are sort of main airports page is getting quite a bit of traffic. So let's see what queries people are searching. They're actually coming directly. So some of the like Midland Airport wait times at Santa Ana is actually directing people to our main hub page, which is awesome. So we're getting traffic already. I didn't expect that. It's not normal. This is not typical. It's very good for that initial launch. As I said, it usually takes, 10 days to see some traffic trickling in. You usually see impressions in the first few days. We're actually getting clicks here. Now, this might be down to right now. I didn't even realize it when I had the idea to build this site. But right now, there's a government shutdown. TSA times are extremely long, so I suspect that's why we're getting so much traffic already. But I just wanted to show this to you guys that this is actually working. Within 24 hours, we're getting clicks on the site. It's live. The site is working, and we're serving users. And a way to speed this up a little bit is if you come to sort of your main pages on your website. So if we go to the All Airports page here, that is sort of like a top-level page that then links down to every other page in that category. So it's going to go to all of the US airports. What we can do is copy that and come in here to URL inspection. And if you paste this in here, it will then retrieve data from Google Index, and we can request indexing on that page. So what I would recommend doing is actually requesting indexing on all of your main pages. So obviously we have the All Airports page, we have the Compare page, and we have the Pre-check page. And those link down to all of our other pages related to that. So I would highly recommend indexing all of those and your homepage to speed up indexing. So that's pretty much it. We've now built a full programmatic website start to finish using Claude. And if we take a look here, this is our finished site. We've got a site up and running. It's live on Railway. We've even got this working now as well. So we can click on these. We can see the current wait time at specific airports. And then we've got all of the live times that we have right here. And this will start getting indexed. We've indexed it on Google, and Google will start picking up those pages eventually. And it's a long-term play with SEO. There's a lot of things you can do, and I can talk about this in future videos, but I'd recommend doing some further research on SEO and how to actually get pages indexed, maybe potentially buying backlinks to boost your domain authority and get the website discovered a little bit quicker. But over time, this should start ranking and getting you traffic. So there's obviously different ways that you can monetize this. For this type of website, it's probably going to be through ads is probably your best way. But depending on the type of site that you're making, you can monetize it in different ways. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be doing a ton more videos on the channel here of all of the things that I've been building out with Claude. And I'll see you guys in the next one.